Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtodara Shima His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtodara Shima His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai New Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories of the Sambal devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories of the Sambal devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories of the Sambal devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 28, Paranjan becomes a woman in the next life. Text 65. Bahishman etad adyatmam parokshena pradarshitam yat paroksha priyo devo Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha Bahishman etad adyatmam Parokshena pradarshitam Yat Paroksha Priyo Deva. Forgot to do. Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha. Parishman etat adyatmam. Parokshena pradarshitam. Yat paroksha priyo devo. Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha.
Bhagavan Vishvabhavanaha. Bhagavan Vishvabhavana. Parishman edadathyatmam. Parishman edadathyatmam. Parakshena padarsinam. Yat paroksha priyo devo. Bhagavan Vishvabhavana. Bhagavan Vishvabhavana. Parishman edadathyatmam.
Word by word. Barhishman, O King Prachini Barhi. Etat, this. Adhyatmam, narration of self-realization. Parokshena, indirectly. Pradarshitam, instructed. Yet, because. Paroksha priyaha, interesting by indirect description. Devaha, the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vishvabhavanaha, the cause of all causes. Translation commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. My dear King Prachini Barhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Pranjan to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Purport. There are many similar stories in the Puranas for self-realization, as stated in the Vedas. Paroksha priya eva hi devaha. There are many stories in the Puranas that are intended to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects, but actually these refer to real facts. They are not to be considered stories without a transcendental purpose. Some of them refer to real historical facts. One should be interested, however, in the real purport of the story. Indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man. Factually, the path of Bhakti Yoga is the path of hearing directly about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. But those who are not interested in hearing directly about the activities of the Lord, or who cannot understand them, can very effectively hear such stories and fables as this one narrated by Narada Muni. There's a glossary here, but we're not going to read it. So, in your free time, if you want to read that, different words mean. So why was that done at the end of the chapter here? Usually it's not done like that, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, so anyways, on your free time you could read. Also in chapter 29, there's interesting, at the very end of chapter 29, which is, it's a long chapter. Let's see here. There's if you look at chapter Canto 4, chapter 29, text 85, and then right after 85, oh, I see. It says special note, and then it says according to Vijay Dwajatirtha, and then it's like text 1A through 2A, and then text 1B and text 2B. So I guess it's just kind of footnotes from other or further commentary that they added at the end there. Usually that's not there in the chapters either, but all right. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 28th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Pranjana Becomes a Woman in the Next Life. And I'm not reading, for anybody listening, I'm not reading the glossary on account of Dravida Prabhu's instructions, so if you have a problem, then it's on his instructions. So yeah, tomorrow will be chapter 29. So. Om Jnani Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvan Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karidivachalam Pangam Langai Tegadim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Deltarinam Vancha Kapadribishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gauda Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, that's all right. So, translation again. 65. My dear King Prajanibarhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Pranjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. So in the next chapter, there's Narada Muni is continuing to speak with Prajanibarhi, and he goes on to explain more about what was just stated in the last in chapter 28. So it continues in some way. But here in the verse, in the purport, it's talking about, or it's being stated specifically, thus I've described the story of Pranjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. So most of the Bhagavatam, like a huge part, there's practically only a very small percentage of the Bhagavatam is, we say like a metaphor or fable, not fable, but metaphor, allegory. Large percentage of the Bhagavatam we accept to be historical accounts, not just like made-up stories or something. And if we're engaged in a particular activity, like naturally want to know, okay, what's the result? What are we striving for? So in relation to hearing the Bhagavatam, it's like, okay, well, what are we, or chanting Hare Krishna, we're hearing so much every day in relation to Krishna consciousness, and okay, well, what's the end result? What's the goal? Now, of course, the goal of hearing and chanting about Krishna is to develop our love for Krishna, or specifically awaken, right? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhyakavanoya, to in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says to awaken our love for Krishna, which is naturally there. It just, you could say, takes a maturation of our consciousness, or reawakening of our consciousness, to experience that. Just like in ordinary, mundane life, when a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl, they reach a certain age. Before, there was no real distinction. Okay, a boy, girl, this and that. There was no real distinction. But when one becomes a teenager, boy and a girl becomes a teenager, then all of a sudden they become very attracted, right? Boy becomes attracted to a girl, girl becomes attracted to a boy. It's natural attraction is there. So similarly, by hearing and chanting about Krishna, we mature, and then that natural attraction awakens within us spontaneously. So that's the idea of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And aside from that, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, the accounts within the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is supposed to inspire, it is inspiring a revolution within society, right? But, I mean, and what is that revolution? Well, the revolution is for a living entity, instead of dedicating all of their time, all their energy, their very life to illusory pursuits, to Maya, to illusion in different forms, slave of illusion, they dedicate their lives to Krishna. They dedicate their lives to spreading Krishna consciousness. That's the revolution. That's the amazing thing, actually. So in other words, hearing the Bhagavatam is meant to inspire us to dedicate our lives to Krishna. And after dedicating our lives to Krishna, we have to rededicate regularly. So it's not that we just surrender once, right? It's like, okay, I surrendered, right? I got initiated in 2009, and now I'm a surrendered soul, and then that's it. Well, I have to surrender every day. That's the idea. So we're meant to become inspired by hearing these different accounts within the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the different leelas of Krishna, of the devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is supposed to be a great inspiration for us. And also we have Srila Prabhupada Leela. So we have the Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. It's a wonderful book by Satsrup Das Goswami. Biography on Srila Prabhupada's life. And there's so many other books coming out. We have like Chasing Rhinos, for example, by Shyamasundar Prabhu. So reading such books, they're meant to create a revolution within us of wanting to dedicate ourselves to Srila Prabhupada, understanding how wonderful he is, most wonderful, and also to spreading his glories, just like in the song by Narottam Das Thakur, right? It says, may your glories be spread throughout the three worlds. So he's referring to his spiritual master, but we're singing to Prabhupada, may your glories be spread throughout the three worlds. So we want to spread Prabhupada's glories far and wide. Just like this book, Yogananda, what is that? Life, Autobiography of a Yogi. It's a very famous book. I mean, extremely famous book. People knew about it in this, when it came out, 60s or 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. People still know about it. They created a movie recently. It actually came out a similar time when the movie came out, Hare Krishna, the mantra, the movement, and Swami who started it all. So just as that book is famous, we want to make Prabhupada famous. I mean, he is famous, but we want to more famous. That's a proper utilization of time in our lives. So we want to become inspired, more and more inspired. So, and why is this important? Why is this important to become inspired? Because naturally, as members of any movement, they want to see movement, they want to see things happen, they want to see things flourish, and they want to see people join, right, their movement. I mean, the movement there, it's natural. They want to see results. So it's important that we're inspired because that is, you could say, that's the life of the Hare Krishna movement, the members in it, that they're inspired. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, right, Yadi Dekitaka Krishna Upadesh, whoever you are, right, wherever you go, whatever your situation is, become a guru and try to deliver the land. And he said this to Korma Brahman. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling on his South India tour, he approached the house Korma Brahmin. This Brahmin, he served this devotee. He served Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was very happy to serve him and see him, and he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave his family, and so he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted this verse, Yadadakata Krishna. He says, you don't have to leave, you could stay, but you become a guru for this land that you're in. And by following my instructions, you'll have my association. So yeah, if we can, we have to do what we can. And then it's a question, okay, what can we do? People have, we have to, some people could become, the guru for half of Bengal, like Jayapataka Swami. He's initiated, not half of Bengal, but he's initiated a lot of devotees over there. Some people could be, the guru of their family. They could be, guru of, certain amount of people. There's different types of gurus. Vartma Padarshika guru, devotees going out distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, going out on Harinam, right? Trying to introduce people to Krishna consciousness, show them the path. So, what we could do, will differ. But everybody has a particular role to play. And you could say we don't have to feel bad about a particular role or something. Oh, I'm kind of a small member in the. Well, that's good. Like for example, someone would say, okay, well I'm just cleaning the bathrooms here, cleaning the restaurant. That's very important. That is extremely important. If somebody could just dedicate their lives to chanting Hare Krishna and hearing the Bhagavatam and doing devotional service and maintaining the bathroom, that's glorious life, actually. Just like they had this devotee, I'm always forgetting his name. He's in Vrindavan. He was a cook there. He passed away. Yeah, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. And this devotee was like extremely dedicated to Radha Shyamasundar, the deities there, cooking. He would cook all the offerings every day. And he had this, And he at one particular point, he became so elderly, his body, that he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't, pick up the pots, and devotees were telling him, "Oh, please, Prabhu, and you don't have to do this anymore." And so he had to stop. And then he calculated, okay, how am I going to serve the Vaishnavas now? How am I going to serve the devotees? How am I going to do something valuable with my time? So what he did is he situated himself in the Krishna Balarama temple, and he would distribute the Charnamrita, which was a very intelligent move. Because there's so many devotees coming through there. I mean, Krishna Balarama temple is just packed all the time, thousands of people. So everybody's coming to have Charnamrita, so he could serve all the pilgrims, all the residents of Vrindavan, all the devotees, and in this way, perform Vaishnava Seva. And he lived his life and was successful. So that's one example. There's so many examples. I did that one time in Mayapur. I wanted to. I had they have Charnamrita by Panchatattva, the Panchatattva deities. So I sat there and I started distributing Charnamrita, and a lot of people were. It was nice. I mean, you could literally sit there for hours and do that. But in relation to being a guru on any level, Diksha, Shiksha, Vartma Padarshika, even just being, you could say, kind of like a senior bhakta, we have new bhaktas join, and they look up to the older bhaktas, or initiated devotees, or even second initiated devotees. They look up. People follow. People see what we do and what we don't do. So, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, whatever a great man does, whatever a great personality does, common men follow. Common people follow. So this is just human nature. So therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, they set a very high standard so that we could follow, because that's just their nature. They're elevated personalities, but it is for our benefit as well that if somehow or other they're not setting the right standard, then it actually affects people who are following them. Just like they have this saying that, I'm not exactly sure where the saying came from, but I thought it was a good saying. But it says that the saying is that if the guru pees while standing, the disciple will pee while walking. So, in other words, if they have a saying, okay, you give them an inch, they take a mile. So if we give our minds, or if we give our students or disciples or followers or people who are looking up to us room to, you could say, not follow properly, then they'll do that. That's exactly what they'll do. In other words, they'll take the exception as a principle to follow, whatever that may be. So yeah, but luckily we, as members of the Hare Krishna movement, we have Srila Prabhupada, who set such a high standard for us to follow. Of course, even then, they have a saying, right? I think it was by William Blake. It says, he said that you and I read the Bible day and night. You read white and I read, or how does it go? You read black and I read white. So people are interpreting things differently, while reading. Or as Rajendrananda Prabhu, he brought up a good point the other day. He said that according to the modes, for example, there's different understandings of the scriptures in the modes, okay? Understanding the mode of ignorance, understanding in the mode of passion, understanding the mode of goodness, transcendent understanding. So, taking things out of context, like, for example, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, says, I am the healing herb, right? Oh, well, we know what that's referring to. That's referring to ganja. But if it was referring to ganja, Krishna would make that very explicit. And aside from making it very explicit, our acharyas would make it very explicit. And aside from our acharyas making it very explicit, they wouldn't tell us over and over and over again, don't smoke ganja. Like Prabhupada mentions, right? Or as Trivita Prabhu mentioned, anyways, I think Sura Prabhu has mentioned this, right? Maybe you could explain it, because the karma thing, and because...
Next slide. Which is not against religious principles.
Yeah. I am sex life, which is not against religious principles, right? Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Just add a comma, which
supports comma.
add a comma which supports comma, yes. But it's not that I am sex life, which is not devoid of principles, that I am sex life that is not devoid of religious principles. Means, yeah, Prabhupada explains in the purport. Procreation of children, raising Krishna conscious children. So there's a purpose. So taking it out of context, or you could say taking the text out of context. So that's a problem. So if somebody, if they want to do this, if they want to do that, if they want to do so many things, okay. It's a free world, right? Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, I've explained this whole Bhagavad Gita to you, now do as you like, Arjuna. So free will's there, people could do, but taking the philosophy and trying to water it down, mix it up, that could be problematic. That is problematic. So here, when we see here, it says, okay, Narada Muni had this whole preaching technique to Prachanda Barhi, that he told this whole allegory. And it was indirect. It wasn't direct. And Prabhupada's saying, oh, common man, they understand this better. And so it's a preaching technique. You'd say it's like kind of little, I don't know exactly like bridge preaching, but it's indirect. Now, this has been going on for a long time, this indirect preaching. Just like Mahabharata is indirect in many ways. Or specifically like Narada Muni, or Vyasadeva telling Narada Muni in the Bhagavatam, earlier in the Bhagavatam, he says, you have written so many scriptures, but you failed to directly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore you were despondent, therefore you're dissatisfied. So he chided him, he said, and therefore you should write the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a direct glorification. So within our lives, there may be some type of bridge preaching going on within our lives, within the lives of others in the Hare Krishna movement. There's bridge preaching going on throughout ISKCON. But we have to be careful that the bridge preaching doesn't become like extremely watered. Doesn't confuse others and confuse ourselves. In other words, for example, in the yoga realm, okay, devotees are teaching yoga throughout the world. Okay, people are into yoga. There's some type of preaching field for that. But for devotees to kind of, their minds to shift into this gear of thinking that, oh, well, actually, yoga is like the goal. The goal is to have a healthy body right? The goal isn't love for Krishna. It's to have a healthy body, right? To enjoy this world. So there's some danger there. And now, of course, it may seem a little kind of funny. Oh, is a devotee really going to go off that much? Well, happens. So there is room, definitely, for bridge preaching. I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when you read in the Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, it's actually quite amazing what he put together. Put together this huge festival. It was probably like a circus. It was people all doing all types of different things. I'm forgetting right now what they're doing, but alongside of that was Krishna consciousness. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was quite revolutionary in that regard. So there is room for it, but there's a fine line there, not to get, say, stuck on the bridge, or not to successfully carry people across to the other side, right? So here, and so Narada Muni, he's engaged in this indirect preaching, and but it made it into the Bhagavatam, and of course it's Narada Muni, so of course it's going to make it into the Bhagavatam, and it's successful. So we have to judge an activity by the result, right? Judge preaching by the result. Is it really working, or is it not working? So when we hear also, it says stories. So a lot of the times people, when they think of stories, it's like, oh, well, that was a nice story. It's a made up story. And there's so many fiction, right? Fiction stories out there, books, movies, and again, we're hearing the Bhagavatam and we're thinking, okay, well, what is the result? The result is love for Krishna. The result is us becoming inspired. And there's a different result from hearing different things. Like there's so many movies out there, and so much of it is the same storyline, right? Whenever the guy gets the girl, or some kind of romance type of story. And what's the result of that? Well, I mean, people, they feel more inspired to try to have some type of romantic, amorous life. They don't feel inspired in Krishna consciousness. So we want to hear stories, real historical accounts of devotees by which we become very, very inspired to dedicate our lives to spreading Krishna consciousness. Just like Tamal Krishna Goswami, he wrote this wonderful book, Servant of the Servant. And it's all this wonderful account, him joining the Hare Krishna movement, him meeting Srila Prabhupada, and then Christmas Marathon, all these wonderful accounts of book distribution. So he dedicated that book. He said, I dedicate this book so that my disciples may be inspired to dedicate their lives to spreading Krishna consciousness. So right now we are in a time in history in which a particular book has just came out. Well, it's out in India. Yes. Yes. The other day it was Makara Sakranti, which is apparently the time where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left home to take sannyas. It's the time where what was the other one? Oh yeah, Bhishma Dev got darshan of Krishna. And it's also the time, the 40th, it's the time where the Juhu temple opened, the day, Makara Sakranti. So that was a few days ago. And so a few days ago was the 43rd anniversary. And on that particular day, they launched the book. They offered to Srila Prabhupada there, offered to Radharasa Bihari, to all the deities. Devotees are buying the book there in Mumbai. So it's out there. And it's on a boat coming here to Los Angeles. So it should be here. Maybe it's here now, but it should be here. Savas Prabhu, of course I don't have some, Oh, good. Of course I don't have some, close connection to Savas Prabhu, but, I sent him a message, and he responded, and he said that, the book, I heard it should be here by the end of the month in Los Angeles. January, yeah. So it's about 800-page book. It took many years to write. His Holiness Giraj Swami, my spiritual master, he was very meticulously trying to get all the historical records right, the names, places, photos. There's many photos in the book. So it's a wonderful book, and it will, with many instructions in it, produced by the BBT. Devamrita Swami helped with that, the Australian BBT. And it's a wonderful story, Srila Prabhupada said. He said, it was a great fight. Somebody should write a book about it. And he said that in front of my spiritual master when he was there. And he instructed my spiritual master to write many times. He thought he was a good writer. He is a good writer. He thought that, I was there from the very beginning, and there until the opening of the temple. So, and many devotees were encouraging him to do that. So he did it.
Not just that.
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but so many people came and went.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Bombay was Juhu was tough, and so many big leaders came, and they lasted a couple weeks, lasted a couple months, and they were out.
Yeah.
And Giriraj Maharaj stayed through thick and thin, and Prabhupada counted on him.
Yes.
Prabhupada asked him to do some very difficult, confidential, and he knew that he could count on Giriraj Maharaj.
Yes.
Das Brahmachari at the time.
Yeah, he was, so many, as Mario was saying, so many sannyasis and so many, GBCs, and a lot of devotees came, and a lot of left, because it was so difficult. There was, history. Madhudvisha Prabhu was there. He left. Brahmananda, Bali Mardan, Karandar. Bhagavan. They're all coming. The book explains too how they came and how they left. But Srila Prabhupada, when he came, I think who was it? I think Brahmananda Prabhu was or Swami was going back to Africa at that time, because he was in charge of the project in the beginning. He was going back to Africa. And my spiritual master was there, Giraj Das Brahmachari, and all the devotees were there. And then Prabhupada, he said, so he had a meeting with all the devotees, and the meeting was about who was going to be in charge of the project. So then Prabhupada said, okay, so we have this big project, and we need someone to take charge of this project. And then the whole room was quiet, everybody was quiet. It was very, very quiet. And then my spiritual master, he explains that he thought he was attending the meeting as just, he's like a brahmachari, and surely Prabhupada's not going to ask me to do it. I'm just like kind of a bystander here attending the meeting. And so then they're in the meeting, and then Prabhupada says, so, Giriraj, you'll take charge? And then my spiritual master says that he felt that he experienced, like maybe he even physically cringed, at hearing that. But he knew that, so he said, he was explaining that his mind, wasn't so easily accepting that, but he knew that it was good for him because Prabhupada, wanted him to do it. So he said, yes, Prabhupada, I'll do that. I'll take charge. And then Prabhupada said, so, if anything goes wrong, then, he said, so the matter's on your shoulders, the whole matter's on your shoulders. And then Prabhupada began to laugh. And my guru, he explains, I can't believe, why is Prabhupada laughing like this, But does he understand this is difficult, But he understood that whatever Prabhupada does is perfect and it's for his benefit. So then he accepted that, and then, so this book it's a historical book, and it will really inspire devotees in relation to developing their, Guru Nishta, their firm conviction in their spiritual master, and Srila Prabhupada. So that's the glory. Anyways, it's just packed full of wonderful things, this book, so we'll have it soon, and we'll be relishing it soon. It's a page turner. So we could absorb ourselves in such things, right? Stories. It's called the Juhu story. So, does anybody have any? Yes.
I just wanted to add about Vibhu Chaitanya.
Yes, there's a lot. Yes, about him.
Anyway, Hare Krishna, it's what we've got. Can you hear?
I think
it makes any difference.
So Vibhu Chaitanya, just hold on. Vibhu Chaitanya, Prabhupada said, because Prabhupada, if you know the layout of the Vrindavan temple, Prabhupada's garden was right next to where the kitchen used to be. And Prabhupada would be making his massage. Hari told me this. And they would hear Vibhu Chaitanya singing while he was cooking. And Prabhupada said, just by this singing and this cooking, he will go back to Godhead.
yes.
So pleased. And with the Charnamrita, yes, serving all the Vaishnavas, but also he's in the temple room the whole time.
Yes.
So he's got darshan of the deities, because he was old, he couldn't move much, but he's got darshan, he's in all the kirtans, he hears all the classes, and he's serving the Vaishnavas. So it's very intelligent calculation.
Yes. Yeah.
Multifold.
Yes, as Maharaj said, Hari Shari told Maharaj that this Vibhu Chaitanya, he, as I was mentioning him earlier in the class, singing, cooking, and Prabhupada said just by this singing and cooking, he'll go back to Godhead. So, yeah, he was always singing, always very happy, jolly, singing. And he, very situated himself in the temple room, darshan of Radha Sundar, serving all the devotees. I'm also thinking of that devotee. Yeah, the shoe stall. He wears nice tilak, tulsi beads, and he's always there at the shoe stall. Yeah, got a speaker. He could hear the kirtans, right? Hear the classes, and he's got a very good memory. You go, and there's a lot of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people, and people putting their shoes there, and he takes the shoes, and he always remembers whose shoes, is whose. He remembers. I never saw him make a mistake. No, there's no ticket. He just remembers. And here's your shoes. Oh, okay, thank you. He's very jolly, smiling, and it's good. Yeah, can touch everybody's.
I had one thing about Vibhu. I think it's probably the
Where
same
is he from, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu? Where is he from? Bengal or? Bengali, okay.
This is probably what you're going to say. Prabhupada told him, you don't have to leave the campus.
Yes.
And it's Vrindavan. You can go. Radhakund here and there. He never left. He stayed in that ISKCON campus. Yeah, and the whole time.
Yeah, it was like a.
Yeah.
Prabhupada wasn't eating much, and Prabhupada could smell his samosa. He's cooking samosa. Prabhupada wanted, and devotees said, "No, Prabhupada, you can't." Then Prabhupada says, "No, bring." And this is somebody brought him. Prabhupada tasted a little bit. He said, "Wow." Prabhupada really liked it.
Yeah, so he performed this severe chaitra sannyas, in one place. A sannyasi stays in one place. It was like, not just one place, one campus. Everything was there for him, which is true. So there's a nice there's a lecture by Mukunda Prabhu, the Pujari there in Vrindavan, on the glories of Vibhu Chaitanya. He gives a whole talk. He gave it in Vrindavan, so devotees want to check that out.
And the thing is,
The thing is, there's devotees like that all over the world. In fact, there's devotees like that right inside this building. When you actually think about it, there are so many deeply dedicated, intelligent devotees who've done, far out things in Krishna's service.
Yeah, so
They're all over the world.
great inspiration. Just like Vijay Prabhu was telling the story. Another book that's going to be good when it comes out, Vijay Prabhu's book with all these Sankirtan stories that he's collected over the years. Good ones, really good ones.
Oh, jeez.
But that's supposed to be printed before COVID happened. That was supposed to be printed in Mumbai and as a book and distributed. So that's in the process too. This book, I forgot what it's called. Anyways. So one story he told the other day, which there was this devotees out distributing books in Europe, and the police were after him, this and that. So he had to get his box of books and run. So he was running from the police and trying to take off, and then eventually he ran down this alley and he saw this door. So, I hope it's open. So he opened the door and then, went down the staircase, and then all of a sudden he's on a stage in front of a bunch of people, and then the announcer says, "Okay, sir, we're very happy you made it here onto the stage. You got the prizes for everybody?" and then the devotee, and he had the box of Bhagavad Gitas. So he said, "Oh yeah, here," and he's passing a bunch of Bhagavad Gitas. And then the guy said, "All right, how much does that all cost? We'll cover the cost." And so they gave him money to get all those Bhagavad Gitas, and distributed so many Bhagavad Gitas. And then he found out, what was it? It was a butcher convention. Yeah. So, and it's a true story. So, anyways, so all of these things are meant to, inspiration. Okay. All right.
Balaram,
Oh, yes?
may I ask you a question?
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. It's wonderful hearing the glorification of all the nice devotees. I was, forgive me for being a little slow. I kind of missed a little bit of the example you gave of the guru standing up and passing water and the disciple walking.
Oh.
Could you explain that just momentarily for me, please?
Okay.
You said it, give an inch and a mile.
Yeah, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So, I don't know, I'm trying to think.
Oh,
Yeah. Like,
I got it now.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's kind of like we have to preach by example. Like, okay, here's an example, because I'm trying to think of an example that's not too scatological, but also not too pointed. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm, attacking anybody or anything like that. Trying to think of a good. But one example, okay, this is what I thought of that I didn't mention in the class, that, for example, if a devotee, if the temple commander, for example, or the temple president, or he doesn't show up for Mangal Arati one day, right? And then the bhaktas, the younger devotees think, hey, he didn't show up for Mangal Arati one day. I'm not going to show up for 3 days. I'm not going to show up for a week. He could do it, then why can't I do it? So that's the principle that if you get a really high example, it's like, so what I'm saying is that the leaders have to be careful because people use their intelligence to try to see how they could, not do the right thing, pretty much. So for example, okay, the guru stands while peeing, the disciple stand will pee while walking, which means taking it a step further and a step further and a step further. So.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. We have a new setup.
Acha. Oh, do I give it to you?
Yeah.